Hello everyone and welcome to the new lecture on graphical user interface programming in Python. But it's very important for you all to go and check the previous lecture we have already posted on this topic, because it's all the topics are interconnected, and to understand the topic in a better way, it's very important that you first go and check those videos, because without the fundamental concept you won't be able to understand the further topic, because the concepts are interconnected. In the previous video we have already discussed how to create the window and how to add the component onto the window. During this lectures we have also discussed about the entry component, button component, label component. So these are the very common components which are used in almost all the example. In this lecture what we are going to discuss is known as text component. Basically if you just go and check the previous lecture on entry component is a component which is used to accept a single line of input. For example, if you are filling an online form, and if there is a field which is there to accept the name of the user or the password of the user, these components are single line input. But whenever we need to enter multiple line of content, then we use the text component. If you are aware with HTML, in HTML also when we design a form for the user for multi-line entry, we use text area component. So our text component in the tkinter module of the GUI programming on Python is having the similar component, which is known as text component here. So text component is nothing but the text area component, which is basically used to accept the multiple line of text from the user. So before taking the example, we will just see how the text area component, it's a very basic component which looks something rectangular in shape, and here when we enter some text, the text is similar to the entry component. Only difference between the entry component and the text component is entry component is the component which is capable of accepting a single line. That is, if I accept a text, I have to keep on entering the value in the horizontal manner. We cannot change the line, we cannot move on to the next line. Whereas if I am working on the text component, I can change the line and can move on to the next line and can start entering the value in the next line also, and further I can keep on changing the line and I can enter any line, any number of lines of text into this component. So this is the basic difference between the entry component and the text component. So how are we going to create the text component and how to use the text component? How to use the text component, for that we are going to take an example. So let's move on to the example. We'll start the PyCharm and we'll start the program in which I am going to show you how to implement the text component. But again I am repeating, in order to understand it in a better way, please go and check the previous lectures, because I have already posted few of the lecture in which I have discussed all the fundamental basic topic, and those basic components are important because in order to understand a component, we will utilize them together. So if you have a clear concept of window, how to create the window and how to size the window and many other things, so it's very important for you to understand those basic components. Okay, so please go and check the previous lecture. So now we are going to start a new project. We have started the PyCharm interface, and now what we have done, we have started a new project with the name text component, and just click on the create button, this window, no problem with the window. Now what we'll do is we will create a Python file. Right click on the project name, select new, select the Python file, and I'll name it as text. It's fine. Text is because we are going to discuss the text component in this example as tk. So we have imported the tkinter module. Now what we are going to do is all the basic requirements have to be completed, that a window, and then if you want, we can just apply some dimension to this window. That is, if you want that initial dimension of the window should be of specific size, I have set it as 500 by 500. So when the window appear on the screen for the first time, it should be 500 by 500. do one thing. I will just name the window as text or text component. It's the title, so we will name it as text component. That will be fine. Now what we are going to do, last thing or last requirement is, in order to sustain this window we have to execute the main loop command. Now the basic requirement is over. We have created a window using tk function of the tkinter module, and then we have applied a dimension of 500 by 500, although we can resize the window accordingly as per our requirement. This will be the default size, and this will be the title which will be displayed on the title bar of the window, and this main loop will sustain the window on the screen so that it doesn't close until unless we manually close the window. So these are the basic requirement. Now what we are going to do in this example, we are going to create the text component. So how to create the text component? Let's start with, let's name the component as tc is equal to tk module, which is the tkinter module dot text. Okay, now text function will create a text component for us without giving any of the argument to this text function. We are simply trying to create a text component, so just pack it with the window and let's check how the text component looks. Now if you check this, if the text component not visible properly because the color, but if I'll resize the window it will be visible. Now you can see this white area is the text component, and if you see, if I type something, multiple line of text could be entered. The visibility is poor because the font has not been set, so let's apply some font to this so that the visibility would be clear. So I will apply some font size, say 30 to this, and just make the content as bold so that the visibility is better. Let's run the program again and let me show you. Now if let's apply one more attribute, height. Height means number of lines which will be visible at a time. Please remember that height doesn't mean this is the maximum limit. This simply means the number of lines which will be visible at a time in the text area component. Now let's maximize this. Now if you see, this time whatever I am typing is basically visible because I have increased the font size. Okay, and now as we have created, you can see the function is text function. It's a very simple function. Height attribute basically decide how many rows are visible. If I change this into 10, now you can check, this time the size of the text component, the visible number of rows have increased into 10. At a time 10 rows will be visible. If you count this, you can check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. But after that the screen will scroll up. But still we can scroll through the window and we can check the other lines, but the number of lines which are supposed to be visible at a time could be decided by the height attribute of the text component. And similarly font attribute is being used with various component, which is used to basically I apply the font just to make the visibility so that the output screen gives you a clear view of the content of the component. Now after this, what we are going to do is, we'll show you how to give, if I have to manually, without going and writing something onto the component, if I want that when the text component appear on the screen, some default text is already present in that particular text component. For that we have an insert function. So what is the name of our text component? It's tc. So what I am going to do, I am going to call the insert function, and in this insert function we have to pass two arguments. Argument number 1 will tell us from where the content which we are adding to the component is to start, because it may be that the contents are already present in the text component and we are adding further, or we want the content to be starting from the very beginning of the text component. So if I have to start from the very beginning of the text component, what I will pass is 1.0. Now basically what is 1.0? 1.0 here is indicating two things. Number one is indicating the row 1 or the first row. We are starting with the very first row of the component, and this 0 is indicating we are starting from 0th character. Basically the positioning of the character starts from 0 instead of 1. So 1.0 is stating that we are starting from first row and very first character, and it, in short, it means we are starting from the very beginning of the text component. So what text we are going to apply? It could be anything. Enter your text here means I want that when we simply display, or when we run the program, and when the text component appears on the screen, this text should be appearing in the text component by default. So let's run the program again and check. Now you can check that by default this content is already present. We can remove this and we can start typing our content, or we can start ahead of this, whatever we want. But by default, because of the insert function, we can add some default value to the text component, so that when we display the text component, this text is already present in the text component. So after this, let's have some operation on the text component. What we want is I would like to have two operations. That I would add a label into this program. Let me just draw and explain what I want. I will take an example. Say I would be creating a component GUI interface. Say this is my window, okay, and in this component what I am going, in this window what I am going to design is I would be placing a label, okay, label, and below that label I would be placing a text component, okay, and I would be placing two buttons below that, button 1 and button 2, and the first button is the display button. I would be using this particular button to display something, and the last one is the clear button, which is used to clear the content. So what is the purpose of this clear button? The display button. The display button basically will be used, whatever you write in this text component, when we click on this display button, the content of this text component should be displayed on this label component, and when we click on this clear button, the content of the text component should be deleted. That is, whatever is present in the text component should be deleted. So we will be implementing this. We will need a label, we will need a text component, we will need a two different button. One is display and other is clear. So this is what we are going to use in our example to explain the working of the text component. Although we have already taken the example of how to create the text component, but now we are going to apply this interface. So let's start with the label. I will simply create a label. We all are aware with the label, and these things have been discussed earlier also. So what default text we want to apply in this text component? Simply display the content of text component. This will be the default content of the label. Means it is just telling the user that this label is being used to display the content of the text component. Sorry, I think content spelling is wrong. Now what are we going to do? We just apply some font so that the visibility of this component is also good. We will be using 20 as the size, and let's apply bold also so that the visibility is more clear. I won't be doing any further thing on the label. Label is ready. What else we have to do with the label? We have to simply, after creating the label, we have to simply add this label to the window. So L1.pack, and we will have some vertical margin, that is pad Y. If you are not aware, if you would be going through the previous lecture, you are clear with pad Y. And similarly, I am also using pad Y with the text component also. When I am packing this text component, this pad Y basically adds some vertical gap. So pad Y after label 1 will add 10 margin as 10 between the label and the text component, and similarly after text component we are putting pad y, means vertical space will be added between the components. So if anything is coming after the text component, that will have a gap of 10. Similarly, I need two buttons also. One label is ready, our text component is ready. What we further need is two buttons. So let's name the button as B1, and in this button simply I have to display a text which will be used to display the content. So I will name it as display. And again, as other component, we would be using font also, because font is very important so that the content are visible, the output screen is clear. So we are assigning font to this, and what further we could display, we could have something like, okay, now the button is ready. I will copy this button. Sorry, the font F should be small. Okay, now I'll copy this button and I'll paste this, because we need two buttons, and I have to just change the name from B1 to B2, and the content of this button would be clear, because the second button is basically used to clear the content of the text area. Now I will just pack this button with the window. So B1 dot pack, and please remember to add some pad y with all the component, because we need certain margin so that the components are having some gap in between. Without that, the visibility won't be, or the window won't be good or user friendly. So now let's run the program and check whether our output or the screen is ready or not. Let's maximize it. Now you can see that we have this label. Just wait. This is the label which we have added at the top. If you can see, this is the label which we have added. This is the text area, and these are the two buttons which we have created. One is display and other is clear. Although we haven't added any functionality to this button, we will be going to do that. But before that, the output, the GUI are the design of our output or the graphical user interface is ready. What we have already discussed, that we would be having a label, we will be having a text area, we would be having two buttons, and their purpose we have already discussed. Display button, when I'll click on this button, whatever is present in this text area will be displayed here on the label, and when I'll click on this clear button, whatever is present in this text area, text component, sorry, will be deleted from this text component. I hope this is clear to everyone. Now let's move back and just add the functionality to these two buttons so that the operation could be implemented. So for that, what we generally do is we need to add function, and that function we are going to do all the work, because to add any operation to the button we use the command attribute. For this also, please go and check the previous video where we have discussed the buttons in detail. So what we are going to do, we are going to add the command attribute, and in this command attribute we will be naming the function which will do the operation for us. So I will be just assuming that I am going to create a function with the name display, sort of display, because the first button is to display, and similarly the command attribute for the second button is clear, because I am going to name the function as clear, which is going to delete the content of the text component. So let's define these two functions before using them. So disp is the first function and clear is the second function. I hope till here everything is clear, CLEAR. And now let's define what are we going to use or work in this disp function. In this function we are going to display the content of this text component into this label. So we already are aware that to edit the content of any component we use the config function, and in the config function we are going to change the text property of the label, and in this text property what we are going to assign, we are going to assign the content of this text component, and for that, to extract the content of the text component we use the get function of the text component. So what is the name of the text component? It's tc. So we'll write tc dot get, and again we have to specify from where to where, as we came through the example of insert function. In the insert function also, when we started the insert function, we need to specify from where we have to, whatever text you are adding should be added or should be starting from this specific position, where 1 specifies the row number and 0 specifies the index number, sorry, the character number. So first row first character means from very beginning. So what we are going to say, that whatever is present in the text component TC, I have to start from very beginning till end. Whatever are present, whatever 10 lines, 20 lines, 50 lines, everything should be extracted and will be applied to the text of the label. So here we will specify that we will start from 1.0, that is the beginning, and comma will go till end of the text component. So here in the get function we specify two arguments. One is specifying from where we have to start the extraction of the text and from till what point we are going to extract the content. So very beginning till starting from 1.0 means from very beginning, end means till the end of the text component. So in the this function we have defined that whenever this function will be clicked, basically this function has been added to the command property of the B1 button. So whenever B1 button will be clicked, it will be extracting the content from the TC, that is the text component, and will be assigning that to the text property of our label L1. And now what we are going to do is, I think there is certain mistake, it's showing a red line. Okay, we'll look on to that. First let's move on to the next function. Next function is the clear function. Basically this is the command attached with the clear with the B2 button. So B2 button is having clear function, and what is the purpose of this function? This function is going to delete everything from the text component. So in order to delete anything from the text component, what we need to do is we need to use the delete function of the text component. Text component has a delete function. Using that delete function, we can delete whatever is present in the text component. So what we in this function we have to do nothing, but we have to call the delete function of the text component. Here also you have to specify what content you want to delete. So we will use the same indexing method, that is we will start, if you want to delete everything, we will use the same. We will specify two of the indexes, that we are going to start from very beginning until end. Whatever is present, everything will be deleted or cleared from the text box. Here I think this is missing, one bracket is missing. Okay, now we have defined two functions, disp and clear. This function is simply extracting the content of the text component and applying it on the label, and the clear function is deleting whatever is present in the text component. And we have attached this function with the button B1 and B2. B1 is the display button, which will display the content of the text component into the label, and B2 is the clear button, which is going to delete everything present in the text component. And here we have came across three different functions attached to the text component. One is insert, to apply certain content or to add certain content to the text component. We have came across get function, which is used to extract the value or the text present in the text component, and similarly delete is used to delete something from the text component. So we are ready with everything. Let's run the program and check the output. So if we see, till now we haven't entered anything in the text component. By default it's displaying enter your text here. This is the text which we have added already through the program. If you can check the code here, through insert function we have when we created the text component, we have added this text by default to the text component. So that is being displayed, and this is the label where the content of the text component will be displayed when I'll click on this display button. So what I'm going to do, let's click on this button, display. Now you see, when I clicked on this display button, the content of this text component, that is enter your text here, has been displayed over here. So what I'm going to do, let's change this content and try out one more time. This is the text component. We are checking the text component through through an example. Okay, now I have added few lines in the text component. Now I am going to again click on the display button. You can check that again whatever we have typed in the text component is getting displayed over the label. So whatever you are entering in the text component through the display button, we are getting that over the label. Now what we are going to do, we are going to delete everything from here and we'll try to display it again. See, when we have cleared everything from the text box, the label is displaying nothing. Similarly, if I am adding something, it is displaying. Okay, now if I need to delete everything from the text component, what we have to do is we have to use the clear button. So this clear button is basically used to delete whatever is present in the text area. So I hope this example is clear to everyone. Through this example, we have demonstrated how to add the text component, and we have also demonstrated the work of three different functions: insert, get and delete function, which are used with the text component. And the text component is basically used to enter multiple line of content. Entry component, which we have discussed in the previous lecture, is basically a component which is used to accept a single line. So these are the two different components which are used to accept the text content from the user. One for the single line, that is the entry component, and text component is the second component which is used to enter multiple line of content in the text. And one more thing, in the next lecture I am going to explain to you how to add a scroll bar to your text component. So because if you see, although using mouse button, if you see, if this is the text component, say if I am going to enter multiple line of text, it goes below and the initial lines are not visible. For that we have to use the mouse button to scroll through. But if you want, we can add a manual scroll bar to the component, to this text component, so that the scroll bar is visible on the right side, and using the this scroll bar, we can scroll through this text component. So in the next example, I am going to use this particular scroll bar also and show you that how to attach a scroll bar with the text area, so that we can use that scroll bar to scroll through the text component. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching the video, and please go and check all the previous lectures also to understand the example which we are using in these lectures. And please do subscribe my channel so that I keep on posting such contents for all the students out there. So thank you very much again for watching the video, and please do give a valuable feedback after watching the video in the comment section. Thank you.